Welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine you build a simple AI chatbot, right?
Okay, I'm imagining it.
Yeah, so it's just a little tool to help order office supplies for your department. You test it on your laptop and it works flawlessly.
Finds the best price for printer paper, drafts the purchase order, all of that.
Exactly. But the second you plug that exact same AI into your company's live corporate network,
It completely breaks.
it encounters a glitch, hallucinates slightly, bypasses all the accounting safeguards, and orders 10,000 high-end laptops.
Oh, wow. Just draining the quarterly budget in milliseconds.
Right, before anyone even notices. So how do you prevent that?
Well, that scenario is basically why the entire technology industry is pivoting right now.
Pivoting away from what?
From single model competition, we spent the last few years watching tech giants fight over who could build the smartest, fastest, standalone chatbot.
Just focusing on the brain, essentially.
Exactly. But having a smart AI that can answer trivia questions or write poems is, well, it's useless to a massive corporation if that AI cannot be trusted to interact safely with a live database.
Right, because the stakes are real money and real data.
Precisely. So we are moving away from single model competition and officially entering an era of stack competition.
Stack competition. Let's really pull that apart because understanding this shift is like the ultimate shortcut for anyone looking to stay ahead in business right now.
It really is the fundamental change in the market.
So if a single AI model is like a brilliant employee sitting in an empty room.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right. Like they can answer your questions, but they can't actually touch any levers or pull any strings. But an agentic stack brief pause gives that employee a desk, a phone, an authorized corporate credit card, and strict instructions on how to interact with the rest of the company.
And importantly, it gives them a manager watching their every move.
Which is critical.
Right. To make that shift from an isolated model to a fully integrated digital employee, companies have to build massive layered software infrastructures.
Which brings us to our sources today. Google has just unveiled a highly coordinated strategy to do exactly this.
Yeah, they are making a massive play to be a comprehensive platform for AI agents.
Not just a chatbot provider anymore.
Exactly. Covering everything from the tools developers use to build these systems all the way up to the security frameworks that multinational banks require to actually deploy them.
But bridging that gap from a developer playing around on their laptop to a global bank trusting an AI with customer money.
It's a monumental leap.
It really seems like it. Because you hear a lot of startup founders claiming they can build a custom AI agent in an afternoon.
Right, you see it on social media all the time.
Yeah. So if it just takes a simple text prompt to create an agent, why is getting that agent to work safely in the real world considered such a massive hurdle?
Well, because creating a prototype that works perfectly once is completely different from creating a system that works perfectly 10 million times a day under intense strain.
The scale problem.
Exactly. When an AI agent moves out of a controlled testing environment, it suddenly has to deal with latency, API rate limits, conflicting data formats, concurrent user requests.
So if 10,000 customers ask a customer service agent for a refund at the exact same second?
A simple prototype will just crash. I mean, a production-ready system needs load balancing, memory allocation, state management. It's complex.
It makes me think of a restaurant kitchen.
Okay, how so?
Well, building an AI prototype on your laptop is like cooking a beautiful steak dinner for your family on a Sunday.
Right, it takes a little effort, but you control everything.
Exactly, you're the only chef. But moving to an enterprise environment, that's like trying to run the kitchen at a Vegas casino buffet.
On a Saturday night.
Yes, on a Saturday night. You don't just need a good recipe. You need like supply chains, health inspectors, line cooks.
And an incredibly robust system to ensure the steaks and the salads come out at the exact same time.
Right, without the chefs, colliding into each other.
That restaurant analogy perfectly highlights the difference between a prototype and actual production deployment.
Yep.
Brief pause.
So how does Google actually help developers navigate that Vegas kitchen chaos?
To help with that, Google is introducing a framework we are seeing referred to as anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity.
Yeah, it is designed to solve the underlying mechanics of making agents reliable.
Like a safety net.
Exactly. Instead of a developer having to manually code how an AI should handle a server timeout or a corrupted data file.
Anti-gravity handles it.
Right. It provides a sandbox environment. It acts as a standardized scaffolding.
Oh, I see. So if the AI hits a roadblock or hallucinates a weird command, Anti-gravity is the mechanism that catches the error before it affects the live system.
Correct. It manages the state of the application so the developer doesn't have to build all those safety nets from scratch.
Which essentially streamlines the entire developer workflow. Brief pause.
It creates a predictable path. I mean, developers need to know that if they write a piece of code today, it won't spontaneously break tomorrow.
Just because the underlying language model updated itself.
Right. And by providing this stable framework, Google is trying to win the loyalty of the developers first.
Which is a classic tech strategy, right? Win the developers and the apps will follow.
Exactly.
But building the apps is only half the battle. Once you have a stable, functioning AI agent, you have to convince a chief information officer to actually let it run inside their highly secure corporate network.
And that is a very tough sell.
Yeah, based on what we are seeing in the enterprise space, IT executives are facing massive compliance audits.
They cannot just let an AI freely roam through their HR databases or financial records.
Right. So what does Google offer them?
Well, this is where the requirements become exponentially more rigid. An enterprise does not care how smart your AI is if you cannot mathematically prove that it is secure.
So they need receipts for everything it does.
They require a completely traceable, deterministic audit trail for every single action the AI takes. And this is why Google is building out the Gemini Enterprise Agent platform, Brief Pause.
Okay, so it's not just a hosting environment.
No, it isn't just a place to host the AI. It is an environment built around a strict governance layer. Brief pause.
Let's look at the mechanics of that governance, because it is far more than just giving the AI a list of rules like, don't share passwords.
Oh, much more. A robust governance structure uses role-based access control, or RBAC.
So if an AI agent drafts a contract, it cannot simply execute that contract on its own.
Right. The governance system intercepts the payload, runs it through a deterministic policy engine, verifies the permissions, and logs the API call before anything goes live.
Which ensures that the AI is only accessing data it is explicitly authorized to see.
Exactly. If you deploy an agent to analyze supply chain bottlenecks, the governance layer blocks that agent from accidentally reading the CEO's private emails.
It creates hard, unbreachable walls inside the corporate network. But here's the complication. What happens when the supply chain agent legitimately needs to check something with the finance agent?
Ah, right.
Because if an enterprise has, one AI optimizing shipping routes, another handling vendor payments, and a third managing warehouse staffing.
They can't just exist in complete isolation. They have to interact.
Right. But if they interact without a central coordinator, you get infinite loops and system crashes.
Exactly. The shipping agent requests a budget increase. The finance agent denies it. The shipping agent asks again.
And they get stuck in a millisecond loop that drains all the computing power.
To prevent that, you need an orchestration layer. Brief pause.
Going out to our Vegas buffet kitchen, the orchestration system is like the expediter standing at the front of the kitchen.
Right. They aren't cooking the food, but they are mapping the dependencies.
They know the steak takes longer than the salad, so they trigger the steak chef first. An orchestration system in an enterprise platform, Brief Pause, manages computing resources, prioritizes tasks, and sets up sequential triggers.
So multiple AI agents can work in parallel without colliding. It resolves the resource conflicts automatically.
That makes total sense.
And when you combine that orchestration with deep governance, you allow companies to safely run a massive fleet of agents. Brief pause.
Meaning they can deploy hundreds of specialized, task-specific AIs that operate cohesively.
Exactly. And the underlying business logic here is vital to understand. By building the governance and the orchestration, Google embeds itself into the fundamental operational core of a business.
Wow, it is a phenomenal platform strategy. Brief pause.
It really is. If a global logistics firm builds its entire automated workforce using Google's orchestration tools, its custom policy engines, and its security sandboxes.
The cost of switching to a competitor 5 years down the line becomes astronomically high.
Because you aren't just swapping out a chatbot, you would have to rip out the entire digital nervous system of the company.
The lock-in is profound. But to capture that value, tech giants also have to grapple with the reality that no enterprise uses just one vendor. A large corporation might use Google for its agent platform, Microsoft for its email servers, and Salesforce for its customer databases.
Which introduces an entirely new mechanical problem.
Right. Because right now, different AI models fundamentally speak different languages. They format their data differently, they handle tokens differently, they interpret semantic meaning differently.
Yeah, so if my Google's supply chain agent needs to negotiate a bulk discount with my vendor's Microsoft agent, how do they actually talk to each other without a human translating?
That communication gap is the next frontier of this technology, isn't it?
It is. It is why we are seeing such a heavy push toward A2A or agent-to-agent interoperability brief pause.
So for an automated economy to function smoothly, agents need a standardized way to authenticate each other.
Pass data back and forth securely and understand the intent of the message.
It is remarkably similar to the early days of the internet.
Oh, completely.
Hmm.
Before the internet became a global utility, we had fragmented networks that couldn't talk to each other.
It took the establishment of universal protocols like HTTP or TCP/IP to allow a web browser manufactured by one company to seamlessly load a website hosted on a server built by a completely different company on the other side of the world.
We need the exact equivalent of HTTP for artificial intelligence. A universal protocol brief pause that dictates exactly how agents introduce themselves,
How they verify cryptographic signatures to prove they are authorized to negotiate.
and how they format their requests using standardized JSON payloads.
And if the industry can agree on those standards, it unlocks a concept that completely changes the trajectory of global business. An open agentic web brief pause.
This is a future where AI agents aren't just trapped inside corporate walled gardens.
Right, a specialized independent agent built by a 3-person startup could seamlessly interact, negotiate, and execute a micro-contract with a massive enterprise agent from Google.
Entirely autonomously in the background. The efficiency gains there are staggering.
But it also presents a massive security puzzle, right?
Absolutely. Deep interoperability means you are constantly opening doors in your firewall to let external agents communicate with your internal systems.
Balancing that open communication with the strict governance requirements we discussed earlier is going to define the next decade of enterprise software development.
No doubt about it.
This is a lot of complex, high-level strategy. And if you, listening right now, are taking these insights into a strategy meeting or an interview tomorrow, you want to make sure you are using the exact industry phrasing we've been unpacking.
It's all about precision.
Exactly. So we are going to do a quick translation exercise. Think of this as turning plain English into polished boardroom strategy. I'll give you a casual business scenario, and I want you to elevate it using the exact terminology from today's sources.
I love this. Let's do it. What's the first scenario?
All right, imagine a manager says, instead of just buying a random AI tool for writing emails, we need to invest in a complete system that actually connects to our databases. How do we translate that?
Okay, you would elevate that by focusing on the infrastructure. You'd say, to ensure long-term scalability, we need to move beyond isolated applications and invest in a comprehensive agentic stack. Brief pause.
Perfect. Next scenario. An IT director is complaining. The problem isn't that our AI is stupid. The problem is that our different AI tools keep overwriting each other's work and causing errors.
That is a classic coordination issue. You would phrase it as, our core models are highly capable, but our current orchestration layer, brief pause, is failing to resolve resource conflicts between the agents.
Spot on. Let's try one about security. A compliance officer says, we absolutely cannot let this AI access our financial records without a human double-checking the permissions first.
This is where you bring in the rulebook. Before any data is exposed, we must implement a deterministic governance layer, brief pause, to enforce strict role-based access control.
Moving to the developer side. An engineering lead says, we need better testing tools so our team stops wasting time fixing bugs before we launch the software.
Focus on the journey and the destination here. By streamlining our developer workflow brief pause, we significantly accelerate our timeline for safe production deployment, brief pause.
Okay, what about the big picture vendor choice? The chief operating officer says, we chose this software provider because they give us the tools to manage everything securely in one place, which protects us for the future.
That is about the overarching ecosystem. We selected this vendor because their enterprise platform brief pause aligns perfectly with our long-term platform strategy brief pause.
Now let's talk about the digital workforce. A department head says, next year we want to roll out a bunch of custom AI assistants specifically to handle our logistics.
You elevate a bunch of assistants by emphasizing centralized control. In Key 3, we plan to deploy a specialized fleet of agents, brief pause, with each individual managed agent, brief pause optimized for a specific logistical task.
And finally, the futuristic vision. A CEO is predicting the future. Eventually, all our company's AI tools are going to need to easily talk to our clients' AI tools, regardless of who built them, to trade services automatically.
That touches on communication standards and the global ecosystem. As the market matures, deep interoperability brief pause and a shared protocol brief pause will be essential for participating in the decentralized, open agentic web brief pause.
That is exactly how you command a room. It isn't about using big words to sound smart. It is about using precise language that accurately describes the mechanical reality of the technology.
Language shapes strategy. Mastering those terms allows you to participate in the actual architectural decisions rather than just reacting to the technology after it has been deployed.
All right, I want to issue a final challenge to you.
Uh-oh, bring it on.
I am going to give you 3 of these terms, and I want you to combine them into a single, highly realistic sentence that a chief technology officer might actually drop in a high-stakes board meeting.
Okay, what are the terms?
The terms are managed agent brief pause, fleet of agents brief pause, and protocol brief pause.
A boardroom challenge. Let me think.
Take your time.
All right, if I were a CTO defending our infrastructure roadmap to the board, I would say, to scale our operations securely, we cannot simply unleash autonomous models. We must guarantee that every single managed agent brief pause operating within our broader fleet of agents, brief pause, strictly authenticates through our new internal security protocol, brief pause.
And suddenly the board is taking notes. That precision shows you understand not just what the AI does, but how it is contained and controlled.
Exactly.
As we distill this massive shift down, let's lock in 3 clear, actionable takeaways from everything we've unpacked today. Takeaway number 1, the fundamental nature of AI competition has changed.
It really has. The era of focusing on single, isolated chatbots is behind us.
Right. Tech giants are now battling over the entire agentic stack, brief pause, and fighting to define the enterprise platform brief pause of the future. They want it on the highways, not just the cars.
Which brings us to takeaway number 2. To win this infrastructure war, providers must solve 2 entirely distinct mechanical problems.
First, they must give developers a frictionless developer workflow brief pause that allows them to safely bridge the gap from a local prototype to a massive production deployment brief pause.
And second, they must provide risk-averse corporations with a mathematically rigorous governance layer, brief pause, and a sophisticated orchestration layer, brief pause, to manage complex tasks without chaos.
And takeaway number 3, the long-term vision for business automation relies entirely on standardization. Artificial intelligence cannot operate in silos forever.
Establishing robust A2A interoperability brief pause through universal protocol, brief pause, is the critical, necessary step to unlocking the true potential of an open agentic web brief pause.
When you zoom out and look at the trajectory of that open web, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It raises a truly fascinating question about the future of corporate structure. I mean, we talked extensively about agent-to-agent communication.
Right.
If we reach a point where these systems are natively interoperable, where your AI is negotiating pricing and executing binding contract with my AI directly via API calls at machine speed, millions of times a second,
Yeah.
how do human managers oversee a process they physically cannot read in real time? It implies a massive shift in human capital. We are rapidly transitioning from a world where executives manage people to a world where executives manage mathematical parameters and policy engines.
Wow. You essentially become the architect of the rules rather than the manager of the tasks.
Exactly.
It brings us all the way back to the employee in the empty room. You give them a desk, a phone, a credit card, and a rule book. But eventually, they start collaborating at a speed and in a language you can't even perceive.
It's a wild thought to leave on.
It really is. So we want to turn this over to you, listening right now. Look at your own daily professional life.
Yeah, think about your workflow.
If you had the ability to deploy one highly specialized managed agent brief pause to completely take over a specific, tedious, or complex workflow in your current job, what task would you give it?
And crucially, what specific rules would you put in its governance layer? Brief pause to make sure it doesn't mess up.
Let us know your strategy in the comments below.
The real-world applications you share are always the best part of the discussion.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the mechanics behind the headlines, and we will catch you next time.